Welcome back to the Triathlon Weekly News Roundup presented by thefeed.com. My name's Travis. I figured I'd move location back to the view of the lake today, change a bit of scenery because we've got a lot to talk about. Three main headlines that we're going to go over later in the show, but first, as always, we've got to dive into those race results from the weekend and then jump into what 70.3 Worlds is going to be like this weekend. I actually tried to get this one out the last couple days, but just had some camera issues and just no luck talking to the camera, so bear with me if I take a little bit more of my time today, because editing 45 minutes worth of me talking is the least fun thing to do on earth. But anyways, let's get after it. The PTO Asian Open, what a course that was. Kudos to the PTO for pulling that one off. It looked spectacular. I've heard mixed reviews about how the racing was, but I thought it was insane to watch Kristian Blummenfelt pull off that win on the men's side after 9th at the Paris test event. That was remarkable, but I think my favorite performance was from Peter Hemmerich, seemingly out of nowhere. However, if you're following me on Instagram, you'll see that I said, make sure to watch out for this guy. He's had a great season so far, and amazingly, he said he was almost broke or bankrupt and almost left the sport, but thankfully the PTO Canadian Open and his 6th place there saved him, and look where he's at now. I really wish he was racing 70.3 Worlds this weekend, but we'll have to wait and see what he does next. Denis Chevreau was another standout performance on the men's side there, sneaking into the 4th position, earning himself 10 grand more in the death, so huge kudos to him. I actually was going to say watch out for him as well, but he's never really performed this well at the middle distance, and I think you've got to really keep an eye out for him in Nice. He ran a 2:31, I believe, at Ironman Hamburg. Another interesting point there was Sam Long said the bike course was actually short for the men, a couple miles, which obviously didn't favor him too well. And then for the women's side, wow, big headlines there for me. Sarah Perez-Salin beating Lucy Charles-Barkley out of the water. Now, I know Lucy's been dealing with some injuries and she's obviously not quite back to full form. She finished off the podium here, which is very unlike her. And then Anne Haug's spare tube coming loose. How tragic was that? I mean, she said Ashley Gentle was unbeatable on the day, but I think we all saw that she was making her way to the front of the race and we would have had an epic run battle to watch. So I'm gutted we didn't get to see that, but kudos to her for an amazing positive attitude.
Things happen and you have to deal with it and make the best out of it, and I think Ashley was unbeatable today, so I made the best out of the day. And
really looking forward to seeing that run battle in the future. And then the last thing to add for that event was I thought the spectators, there was quite a few less than I'd expect for such a downtown venue, plus the 6,000 or so age groupers that they said were going to be attending at this event. The athletes did say the crowd support was great, but the spectacle wasn't as big as I thought. So it'll be interesting to see how that grows in the future, or if I'm just off and I was just looking at it wrong from the broadcast. So please do fill me in down below if that's the case. And then on to the Paris test event. And speaking of amazing venues, holy smokes, this one was beautiful and makes me so excited for next year's Olympics, which I believe is only like 338 days away. So it's coming up quick. Some people are already saying that it is going to be more epic than the London 2012 Olympics, which is really hard to believe if you've seen footage from that event. There was quite a bit of drama, as always, with the River Seine water quality. The para-triathletes had to do a duathlon alongside the mixed relay. But the city has put $1.5 billion into cleaning it up, and you'd expect them to be ready in 11 months' time. You'd have to imagine they're going to pull it off. But Alex Yee and Beth Potter were phenomenal. I think it's safe to say that Yee is definitely the favorite for the men's Olympic gold medal. Kristian Blummenfelt would argue with that, but he's running so well right now. A 29-minute 10K. Alistair Brownlee, speaking of the London Olympics, he ran a 29-minute 7-second 10K there, and some people regard that as one of the best runs in triathlon history. Tim Hemming pointed out on his Twitter, amazingly, that Alex Yee's dad is actually a chartered bridge architect, which means he must have been loving watching his son cross that bridge to the finish line. I thought that was such an interesting point. Tim Hemming is great to follow on Twitter. He's a triathlon journalist. Highly recommend that. But yeah, short course on the women's side, in my opinion, is even more exciting. It's so up for grabs. There's so many women elevating their game while Flora Duffy has been out injured. And I think, you know, she's probably still the favorite there on the women's side, you'd have to say. But it'll be interesting to see when she comes back, possibly at Pontevedra, the grand final coming up in September. So much to keep an eye out for in short course racing. I mean, it's so good right now. And with Super League coming up, there's going to be lots more to watch. Now the mixed relay was won by Germany, surprisingly as the French looked like they had it in the bag, but for me the highlights of that race was Hellegain's his shriek after Belgium beat France to the third spot on the podium.
Yet again, the mixed team relay delivering memorable drama.
And then Jamie Riddle running on his second lap of the duathlon without shoes on. Apparently they fell off after the first bend. So kudos to him for running over those cobblestones, and apparently they pretty much wrecked his feet. So the other racing was Ironman Canada, but that one was canceled, unfortunately, due to those terrible wildfires going on relatively close to me here. Ironman Sweden and Mont Tremblant were the last two places for the females to qualify, and Lisa Norden won in her home country of Sweden there. Unsurprisingly, she really dominated. And then Rachel Zelinskis, she beat the likes of Sarah Crowley in the process, who's not having her best season right now. But yeah, that means the Kona slot would have been offered to her. There was also Xterra Germany, which took place, and many of you might have noticed that as Eric Lagerstrom was racing there. He finished 6th, I believe, in the short course and 5th in the full distance race. And I must say, Xterra does extremely well with their media and their highlights. They are excellent. So kudos to them. Beautiful locations that they go to around the world, and it's coming up on their World Championships as well. So that's all the races recapped, and now I am really excited to announce a new sponsor of the channel, Fuelin. So Fuelin is an alternative to high-cost one-on-one nutrition coaching that I think a lot of us as we're training might actually need. I know I do myself. So then when I found out about Fuelin and I ran into them at the US Open in Milwaukee, I could not believe what they were telling me. This sounded exactly like what I needed. And after they graciously let me try out their app, I was blown away. It has absolutely everything you can think of that you'd want and then some. It connects to your training plan and adjusts accordingly as you train and as you fill in your schedule. So much more I could tell you about it, but I do recommend heading to the website and checking it out. After using it for a bit now, I couldn't recommend it enough. For less than the cup of coffee a day, you get personalized nutrition guidance and so much more. So you can use my coupon code, TheDailyTri20, for 20% off your first month. And now they are the title sponsor of my podcast, which I highly recommend you guys check out wherever you get your podcasts. Myself and Brent Detta talk more about all the racing going on, and of course, I've got all my interviews that I do on the channel on there as well. So thank you so much to Fuelin for supporting the channel. Let's continue on with the main headlines for the week. And I mean, this one came out last week, the PTO and World Triathlon collaboration. So I'm not gonna tell you guys all about what that is. I'm sure you guys know by now, but basically they partnered together to create a long distance triathlon series. And I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about it. At first, even I was super excited. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a PTO fan. I just love seeing triathlon grow and the best racing the best. But yeah, I didn't realize there'd be so much counter arguments against it. So I thought I'd go over some of the bigger things that I've seen so far. And the first one is that it's not really a long distance world championship. It's a middle distance race. Why are they calling it a long distance championship? The other thing I've seen is that the longer distance athletes might really suffer here. For example, guys like Sam Laidlow, Max Newman, who are focusing on Kona and Nice, they might find it tough to sign up and do all the 6 to 10 races that they've discussed so far and focus on the World Championship races. So it looks like they might have to sacrifice some things. And I also think the same thing on the women's side for ladies like Daniela Ryf and Laura Philipp. Will we actually see the best racing, the best like the PTO hope for? Will they get everyone, including those top names, to sign up? And if they don't, will that make it really the best racing the best? And if they're winning the 70.3 World Championships and the Kona World Championship, for example, and we don't see them on the PTO Tour, will that always be looming over our heads? Like, why aren't they racing? So again, interesting to see how that plays out and how the contracts work next year. And then one that I've seen a lot of is this is gonna make Ironman and challenge races really whittled down. For example, the 70.3 World Champs. A lot of people thinking that this might be pretty negligible coming up. I don't think it will be next year, with it being much later in the year in December. However, in future years, if all these athletes are focused on the 100K distance, how important will the 70.3 World Champs be, especially with the prize money that PTO offers? And then even smaller races than that, Ironman and challenge races, Will they not be able to track those 1 or 2 star names that they've had before that bring a lot of the audience? So those are just a few of the arguments. I asked Frederick Funk about it on my interview with him last week, so go check that out. He thinks they maybe should have waited a few more years and that the contracts might be tough. So lots to come out about that race series coming up in the near future. But on to the second bit of news, and this is Ironman 70.3 Ireland, which was delayed from Saturday until Sunday, and then during the swim portion of the race, 2 men passed away. So it goes without saying, huge condolences to all those involved and to the family members. But when I first heard about it and saw the footage, I couldn't believe that the race went ahead. But however, I did receive a message from Kyle Smith and also from Triathlon Dan, who was racing the race. And both of them said that the conditions really deteriorated. Kyle said it wasn't that bad when he started, it was just really windy. But Dan said when he was out there, even he panicked as an age group athlete in the swim, and that was the worst conditions he'd been in.
I'm not ashamed to say that I panicked quite a lot because the waves were such a strong force, and you're almost being knocked off your feet.
Now, safety personnel did go out the morning before the race and give Ironman the all clear to go ahead. So it is really hard to blame just Ironman. However, it just seems like a nightmare scenario where I've heard that they were even shortening the swim course during the swim portion of the race because people couldn't even make it to certain buoys because of the currents. But the big news coming out recently was that Triathlon Ireland didn't sanction the race to go ahead. They went out the morning before and they deemed it unsafe to start. However, Ironman has said that they didn't know this until after the swim had taken place. So a little bit of confusion going on there, and clearly it was just a nightmare scenario. So let me know what you guys think about that. I've seen a couple comments for people calling out for swim buoys to be mandatory at these events, especially out in the cold ocean swims like that. This one hit close to home. I grew up in Ireland, and also safety is something near and dear to my heart. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. But then moving on to the third headline I saw this week, and Collin Chartier. We finally got an update on what's going on with that ongoing investigation. Tim Hemming, again, that excellent Twitter that he's got, he reached out to the PTO for an update, and he was just told that they can't give an update. However, Collin Chartier has not been cooperative like he promised to be. So that's a real shame. It seems like it's pretty hard when you're traveling on a bike, backpacking around to help with an investigation like that. But yeah, figured I'd just update you guys on that situation, as doping is something super important, I think, for the future of the sport. But we must move on to 70.3 Worlds, and oh my goodness, 2 stacked fields. We are just so blessed at this time of year with so much good racing, and I think I'm most excited for Daniela Ryf versus Taylor Knibb, those 2 monster bike athletes. I've been excited for this matchup since last year's 70.3 Worlds when Taylor Knibb dominated, and I just wished Daniela Ryf was there. But now we get to see it. She's won the world champs 5 times before at the 70.3 distance. But then we've also got Laura Philipp and Paula Findlay, Emma Pallant-Brown, so many good names. I'm excited to see if Laura Philipp can really compete for the win here. We haven't seen the full force of Laura and what she's capable of in a little bit now, and I'm really excited to see her race. On the men's side, can Christian pull off one of the biggest 10 days in triathlon history by taking the win here? He seems super confident that he can do it. However, there are a lot of dark horses on the men's side. Mathis Margerie, he got that amazing performance at the US Open. And then Justus Nieschlag and Pierre Lecour, I think are both guys who could potentially challenge for the win with their amazing running. So we'll have to wait and see there. If you want to know more about that race, my podcast will come out with a full preview, so make sure you check that out. And then moving on to my hot take, this one's more like a hot question. It's back to the PTO, and it's the PTO prize money. So I'm bringing that up because, like I said earlier, Peter Hemrich survived off of a decent paycheck by finishing a little bit further back in the field. Now I can understand the allure of $100K for the winner and how good that sounds in marketing. Spread that out a little bit more to help some of those other athletes be. Otherwise, it looks like next year the rich might get really rich in the sport with 6 to 10 events. But then moving on to the article of the week. This one is insane. 27 hours per week done by 6 a.m. How does Ultraman Steve Keller do it? Just check it out. The title speaks for itself. This guy gets up so early in the morning to compete at Ultraman races. He's also a veterinarian, and it just sounds impossible. I could never pull that off. Video of the week is Cody completing an Ironman. This is one of the most well put together videos I've ever seen. I think it's even better than the average Rob video, which is a fantastic one as well. I think this brings a lot of people into the sport and wanting to do an Ironman. But then I'm adding one more segment, the humor of the week, and this one was pretty great. The meme accounts right now in triathlon are fantastic. And this was Sam Laidlow, pictured the night out after the Asian Open. Even though he dropped out earlier due to his viral infection, hopefully this means he was feeling much better, but I just found it hilarious. And with that, we'll end on a good note. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another Triathlon Weekly News. As always, dive into the comments down below. I'm working hard behind the scenes, and make sure you do check out Fuelin and check out DeBoer as well. They've got that amazing deal where you get a free duffel bag if you purchase a wetsuit on their site. So thank you so much to them, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.